Here we have the latest and greatest from McLaren Automotive, the 600LT. It's the lightest, most powerful, rawest sports series car McLaren has ever made, and it actually marks the 4th LT car made in the history of legendary supercars made by McLaren. Fast forward to 1997 and McLaren produced the F1 GTR Longtail, an actual purpose-built race car for Le Mans. It was lighter, more powerful, and 25 inches longer, hence the name. That actually dominated the GT1 class, finishing 30 laps ahead of its competition. Fast forward to today, we have the 675LT and 675LT Spider, and that brings us to the 2018 600LT. The 600LT is of course based on the Sport Series model, the 570S, except this one starts at a bit higher of a price point. It's also of course lighter, more raw, more powerful, starting at $240,000. So effectively it's a 570S plus a BMW M2. Although in my opinion, I'd much rather have a 600LT than both an M2 and a 570S. Some things to note, the suspension, it comes from the 720S for the most part. So we're taking Super Series parts and putting them onto a Sports Series car. We've also got the brakes off of a 720S as well. The suspension is 8 millimeters lower, it's stiffer, and it rides both in a compliant manner so it's comfortable, but with the least amount of body roll of any car that I have driven that you can actually drive on the road at the same time. The brakes, for instance, are able to slow this car down from 200 kilometers an hour in just 3 feet longer than a McLaren P1. And the brakes on a P1 cost nearly $100,000. One of the LT's party tricks is its exhaust. It's actually very innovative and effective. Like most of the LT, it's all functional, yet it looks cool at the same time. So the exhaust, it's extraordinarily short. It goes from the engine, it's mid-mounted right here, to right there. That's it. It doesn't run all the way down through a rear diffuser. In fact, that allows the diffuser itself to be much larger and uninterrupted because we don't have to have spots for the exhaust, adding for more downforce. But it also means that they had to do something strategic with the positioning of the exhaust tips. They don't go straight out because then they'd fire right into this stationary mounted wing. This isn't an active wing. Part of the Sports Series characteristics is a playful, fun car. They didn't need that mobile wing. It's stationary, and you can get it fully in carbon fiber. They actually had to do the ceramic coating on it so that you didn't set the wing itself on fire, because this shoots massive flames. Because it's so short, it's able to get really hot. Any excess fuel in the exhaust catches fire and combusts about this long with massive blue flames at nighttime. Which is one of the coolest things I have ever seen. It's shorter, which also means it's lighter. It's shorter, which also means it's louder. The cracks and whips on upshifts and downshifts are just phenomenal in this thing. So I'd say it's time to take it for a spin. We are headed out on the Hungaroring in Budapest in the 600LT. So the 600LT is based on the Sports Series car, the 570S, which I've had quite a lot of experience with, except it is turned up a notch in many, many ways. There's actually 6 principles that McLaren uses to differentiate itself from the lesser, in a way, Sports Series car. So first, we have weight savings. Weight savings of over 100 kilograms over the 570S. From the Senna seats to carbon fiber body panels, they wanted to emphasize keeping this very, very lightweight. Dry weight of 1,247 kilograms, which is 100 kilograms less than a GT2 RS. That's right, this thing weighs less than 2,800 pounds, and it weighs 220 pounds or more, less than a GT2 RS or a Huracan Performante. And because it's lightweight, yes, it doesn't have quite as much power as its competitors, so to speak, but it's faster still. It's powered by a 3.8 liter twin turbocharged V8 making 592 horsepower and 457 pound-feet of torque. So 592, yes, it's not well over 600 like the rest of them, but get this in terms of acceleration. 0 to 60 miles an hour happens in a conservative 2.8 seconds. I imagine it's slightly faster than that. 0 to 200 kilometers an hour, that's 124 miles an hour, a typical speed now that people go for because the 0 to 60s are just getting out of hand. And with physics, you can only go so fast, especially for a rear-wheel drive car. But it does 0 to 200 kph in 8.2 seconds. That's 0.1 seconds faster than a GT2 RS with significantly more horsepower. It is way faster than a Huracan Performante or a 488. So in terms of straight line performance, this thing is pretty nuts. But that's not really what the 600LT is about. It just happens to be a byproduct of low weight. It's really about handling and excitement. So one of the other pillars is an exciting driving experience, engagement, connection between the driver and the car itself. They've done that in many ways. We've got stiffer engine mounts, so you actually feel the engine behind you in the carbon fiber tub of the car. We've also got an incredible SSG seamless shift gearbox, 7 speeds by the way, that's controllable by a rocker panel on the steering wheel. So steering wheel mounted paddles, they're not column mounted, that you can actually push forward to downshift or pull back to upshift. So you can really control the car with either hand, which is pretty cool. But really, where the 600LT shines, and what's really putting a smile on my face, is how good this thing feels to drive. Not only does it have the unruly performance, not only is it faster on most tracks than a 675LT is, despite having less power and despite costing less, it just feels better. The steering rack is a lot faster than on a 570S. The gearbox is so quick, the engine response is so seamless, and the chassis rides so stiff that it just it's one of the most fun, if not the most fun cars I've ever driven. I was just in Estoril driving the Senna, right? A car that in every conceivable way for the most part is better than this car. It's also $1 million car instead of with options, you know, 330,000. But what's not better about the Senna is me. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean that I'm not a professional driver and I never will be. And the majority of the Senna clientele are not professional drivers. And it's so fast, so good, that yes, I was able to capitalize on some of the performance because I had a professional driver next to me. But honestly, I wouldn't say terrifying is the right word, because I had confidence in the car, I had confidence in the passenger, I had confidence in my semi-skilled, adequate driving abilities. But it brakes so fast, it turns in so fast, it produces so much downforce that you really don't feel like you can get everything out of the car. But this, you actually can. It's not too fast. It's not too hard on the brakes, although actually the brakes are so good. They're off a 720S that they're a level above what I can comprehend. I end up hitting the brakes fully and I come up short of the turn. But it feels like in this car you can drive it 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. And you're having the time of your life because it's just engaging. When you put it in sport mode and you flick downshifts, it pops and cracks and makes the most ridiculous noises. And the acceleration, it's more than good enough. Oh my God. And it's playful too. Oh man. And unlike the 570S that in a sense limits you a little bit in terms of its on-track performance because it wants you to be safe. This, it just wants you to have fun. And I'm having the time of my life in this thing. So we're gonna go back out in a little bit after a little debrief, talk about the exterior and interior of the car while it's stationary, but I'm in love with this car and I feel so blessed to say that I've actually bought one and I'm gonna be able to drive this all around the world. Just got done driving the 600LT for the initial round and my mind is blown. So before we go out again, let's talk about some of the components that are involved in that 100 kilos of weight savings. They've actually got a really cool demo showing you what 100 kilograms is like, 220 pounds. and how much that makes a difference in terms of braking and acceleration. So here we go. This is the giant, massive, beautiful carbon fiber rear diffuser. It says right there it saves 7.2 kilograms. That's almost 16 pounds just from a new rear diffuser. Let's lift this up. Wait, this weighs almost nothing. That is absolutely awesome. Not to mention, this just looks really cool. Let's go along here. Lightweight window in the front and rear saves nearly 5 pounds. For the window? What? I mean, now we've got the suspension components off of a 720S instead of a 570S. We've got nearly 23 pounds of weight savings just from suspension components. This weighs almost nothing. That's actually really impressive. Now, I know the brakes are about to weigh quite a bit because standard brakes weigh a lot. It's important, even if they weigh a bit, to be able to slow the car down. But we've got the brakes off of the 720S. That's actually not that heavy at all. And it saves nearly 10 pounds. Then we've got the wheel itself. These are the lightweight 10-spoke wheels. No, that's like, I think I could do that with one hand. Yeah, and I'm not even that strong. Now, we have 100 kilos of white sugar right here in front of me, and I'm going to push it to see how much weight that the car actually has to overcome if it were to have this additional weight, so 570 versus a 600LT. And actually, it's not tremendously difficult to speed up, but when you try to slow down, this is a lot of extra weight to deal with, guys. And this is actually a pretty cool representation of it. But just imagine whether you're cornering, you're accelerating, you're slowing down, or even for fuel economy, dealing with an extra 220 pounds of weight is a problem, and they've remedied that. Now, another small bit of weight savings comes from these Mclaren Senna buckets. Using carbon fiber shell technology, it's hollow inside. There's 7 individual pads instead of having a massive, imagine a massive plastic seat with all the electronic controls and leather on it compared to this incredibly lightweight. Look at it. I didn't know I could pick this up, but it's quite light. All right, before we get too carried away, let's go back out in the 600LT and see what it's like to drive yet again. Now that you guys know all of the specs, this is just going to be a pure sounds experience and really what it's like to drive style for the next few minutes. And then we're going to have my professional driver friend who has serious Le Mans victories showing me around in this and experience what it's like to really get taken around the track with some serious skill. I'm not going to pretend that I'm a pro driver because I never will be. Downshifts, oh my gosh, this gearbox is tremendous. Exit curve. The speed at which it shifts is just a turn, and the responsiveness of the car in general is out of this world, out of this world. I think one of the most impressive parts of any modern McLaren, especially the Senna and the 600LT, is the brakes. So I'm going to go full on the brakes here. It actually warps your perception of what's possible. It's just unbelievable how much confidence you have in this car and its abilities. We have traction control on dynamic mode now, so it's a little bit loosened. And what was so impressive to me was how light traction control interfered. Even in just normal modes, it still allowed you to slide the car in a controllable fashion. Now I imagine dynamic mode, you really need to be focusing on what's going on so you don't get the car too sideways, unless you want to get the car sideways, which is also obviously a massive plus of a rear wheel drive powerful car. But pull on the brakes here. Oh my God, I came up short of the corner. That's how impressive this thing really is. Acceleration, guys, for only 5 competitors have a little bit more, but 592 horsepower, this thing accelerates so quickly. But in a way, it's almost more fun than the Senna because it's controllable. It's not too fast. It's not. It's just great at every aspect. Oh my gosh, and the thrust forward that you get when you upshift and just the whack of a downshift. Oh my gosh. Oh, there's no AC in this one. That's definitely a bit of a concern given the external air temperature is very high. So I am sweating because I'm excited. I'm sweating because I'm on a racetrack I haven't been on before, and I'm sweating because there's no air conditioning. This S-turn here is freaking fantastic. Oh my gosh. And the Trofeo R's on this, bespokely made for the 600LT, have so much grip. I mean, it's just extraordinary. It's extraordinary, this car. And the confidence it gives you, even being on a racetrack I've never driven before, I've never driven a 600LT before either, it just speaks volumes for how good this car truly is.
With Parker, my name is Johnny Kane, two-time class winner at Le Mans, 24 hours, 13 times competed in total, so
that's amazing.
Try and let Parker enjoy it.
This is big, guys, so I want him to drive so bad that I gave up one of my laps in this car that I love so much to experience, to experience what it's really about. Oh my God, there's nothing like being in the passenger seat with no steering wheel, with somebody who knows what they're doing, driving this car. And you can just really see that if we went head for head, how many seconds in almost every single corner that you'd be pulling ahead, even though you think you're going fast, you just aren't. Oh my God, but we are going fast. The one thing that's so spectacular about him drifting is on these Trofeo R's, it's hard to get these things to break loose, and then when they do, it really spins. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yep, that is so much faster than I thought was possible. Wow, that was like 245 kph. Oh my God. Yes.
How's that? All right?
That was epic. Thank you so much. Holy crap. All right, let's do a recap outside of the car, shall we? Oh my God, that was incredible. Well guys, this was one of the best days I have ever had. I hope you enjoyed this review. The 600LT is absolutely mind-blowing. Now you're probably wondering, why am I ending the review next to a Senna and a 675LT? But that's to show the caliber of this car. It truly is, in every conceivable way, better than a 675LT. And it's in the same vein of the Senna in terms of downright performance. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.